As human beings, we have been consumed with the idea of perfecting our minds. But if there were a way to transforming our minds, what would it mean how we proceed in business? How would we cultivate leadership? We live trapped in a world beset by complex problems and challenges that would be debilitating on their own, but together are intolerable. When we consider every political, cultural, and environmental issue we face, the world looks appalling. Yet, we still demand constant safety in every relationship, socially, economically, culturally, or even intimately. This demand breeds sorrow and fear because this search for security merely invites insecurity. Human beings are incapable of forming infallible relationships. But we also need to understand that avoiding insecurity and following others instead still allows for an imbalance in any system, whether socially, culturally, politically, economically, and even internally. The reason we have such a global mess is not merely because we have the wrong systems for doing things, be they technological, political, or cultural, but because we have the wrong people assigned to tackle today's challenges. The accolade-driven elites in higher education, economics, politics, or the arts choose to evolve and learn from human instincts, perception, intuition, and gut feeling. But because science is driven by logic and measurable fact, such an approach cannot be tolerated. As soon as politicians or executives begin their ascents, they transform into kings and untouchables, protected by their followers. The pomp of office is like something left over from a feudal past, a remnant of an archaic era that avoids the science and reason of our modern times. Our systems might be fine, but they are in the hands of many self-seeking, unwise, cowardly, uncompassionate, and unthinking people. Most of our leaders are fragile and afraid of personal and social failure, but are perfectly capable of hurting others with their negligence. Our leaders are unwilling to cooperate with those who disagree with them. And so it is the individual, not the system, that is wrong. We do not know how to change ourselves to become more understanding, creative, and mindful. We refuse to confront the inner self. Instead, we continue craving for more, pushing ourselves for further and higher, failing to be our true selves. We should be learning from others so we can better understand ourselves, enjoying wider creativity, humility, and cooperation. But we face today's biggest obstacles, the urge to constantly improve. Why are we in need of this constant improvement? It seems we are burdened by this urge because if we are not improving, we feel at risk of being socially, economically, and culturally excluded. This is a critical reason we follow the wrong people, and it makes the question of why we need to improve ourselves more relevant than ever before. If we are in desperate need of constant improvement, we fail to accept how we are or what is real. This undoubtedly prohibits self-improvement because it is a cycle that repeats itself, spiraling us into an endless, vicious circle rather than leading us to a plateau of peace. Our real self is the spirit that we reach when we are in stillness, when we cultivate calmness. How do we do that? We start by observing ourselves internally, listening carefully to our emotions, feelings, impulses, affections, and sensitivities. We listen to the thoughts that reinforce the inner separation between ourselves and what we experience, until we feel no need to act and are content to simply witness what is happening. That is what I would call the real progress for leadership in the 21st century. But this stillness is difficult to attain. We are enticed by today's intangibles, reputation, greed, lust, power, and image, and they burden us because they can be attained with so little effort. They wrap our ideas of self, and suddenly we seek not just to attain, but to create a distance from ourselves. We want to become someone else. So we turn to the arts, literature, history, art, music, philosophy, believing we can derive satisfaction from those pleasures, until we realize they are not the answer either. We slide towards culture and religion, seeking an ultimate reward removed from material goods. But they too will never satisfy us. So we keep digging deeper into yet another new territory. But we are merely repeating ourselves in wanting to be better without ever truly getting there. We are not better because we simply desire to be. All these global do-gooders, both those who do good for themselves and those who do good for others, are troublemakers that unbalance the system because doing good is destructive. Doing good is simply conditioned stemming from a lack of understanding of others. How do we know that what is good for ourselves, let alone others? As long as we don't comprehend, we become followers, blindly craving to be the ideal person. We become pedantic, pompous, academic, and righteous. This is unfortunately the chosen process for most people around the world. But if we sought to improve ourselves, we would not need to follow. We would simply improve and trust ourselves. Instead, we seek assistance from other fallible human beings in an attempt to be better. The truth is, no one really knows how to interfere with the way the world is, as it is a complex, interrelated organism. But if we are truly aware of our inner workings, true virtue, we realize there is actually little we can do to improve ourselves. The same goes for global society. We can demand to change our global society, sharing tremendous enthusiasm and inspiration, believing a new social revolution would initiate positive changes for every human being. But has there ever been a revolution that set anything right? The worst thing the global industrial society could ever hear is that we do not know what we could change for the better. But the entire notion of self-improvement is a hoax, another product of global short profit maximization. What would happen if we acknowledged that there is nothing we can do to improve? For some, the thought would bring relief. For others, it could signal the end. Accepting that there is nothing we can do to improve ourselves or the world could give us a moment of respite. No longer we would have to act. We could simply observe what is happening socially, culturally, ethically, and emotionally. We could question why we keep separating human beings on social, economic, and cultural lines. Such knowledge requires a much more profound understanding because it is not materialistic, spiritual, or cultural. It does not require us to compare, overanalyze, or strive to be better. But rarely does anyone spend time simply observing. If we watch the world at large, we are faced with the fact that we let the wrong people make decisions that impact millions of lives, placing the world in the shambles it is today. But if we question why we yearn for improvement in everything and everywhere, by labeling ourselves, improving our and others' reputations, we could begin to understand how we live and what we do to each other. Once we realize that something is terribly wrong, we see that things begin to rotate on their own, without purpose, all because we avoid facing our real selves. If we free ourselves from constant improvement, our own nature and environment will begin to take care of itself. We will no longer get in the way of our own success, but great things will happen instead.